just today with us Dr. C.S. Sharma. He is a distinguished educator with a broad experience in India and overseas in teaching program development, including enriched digital content, institution building, financial performance, and business development. Author of 11 books and 47 research papers, with publication on the topic like FUSI finance ratio, merger and acquisition, servant leadership, spirituality and green purchase intention, default probability, trust, etc. He has acted in a constructive capacity to cooperation, renewed institution of higher learning, and is a sought after speaker notable in research methodology, human behavior, and finance. Currently, Dr. Sharma, professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. Earlier, he was director at Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management. Dr. Sharma studies and GRF group of institutions apart from supervising PhD scholar at IIT Delhi, Department of Commerce, University of Delhi, and MIT University. He has conducted numerous workshops and training programs at institutions like Punjab Police Academy, Ramanujan College, NHPC, TIS Mumbai, CPDHC Delhi University, Academy Staff College Guru Jamveshwar University, MDU Rohtak, Manav Rachna University, National Academy for Training and Research in Social Security, Government of India. He is coordinator, National Resource Center, Commerce Discipline, sponsored by Ministry of Education at SRCC, which is running national level refresher program under ARPIT. Professor Sharma is also heading the internal quality assurance cell at SRCC. Sir, thank you accepting our invitation for deliver a lecture today for his precious time. Over to you, sir.
Ji, namaskar. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. This is a 15-day program on research methodology. Is it possible, Dr. Rajiv Nayan, that one of the candidates comes forward to tell me about the topics that have been covered so far?
Sorry, sir. Today, that is your topic is basically the introduction to
I know my topic, Dr. Rajiv. I want that one of the candidates, one of the listeners here, one of the participants comes forward and tells me about the topics that have been covered so far. Like I can see Dr. Vadhva right now. Maybe it is easy for her to.
Ma'am is here.
Or anyone.
Charu, can you hear?
Anybody can volunteer. Anybody can volunteer what topics have been covered so far.
Charu.
Sir, would you?
Sir, yeah, tell me.
Altaf, this sir, if you allow me, sir.
Yeah. Please, Mr. Altaf, yes. Yes, Mr. Altaf.
So the topic that has been covered, sir, I am going to enlist that Neeraj Kaushik sir took 2 sessions on very first day. That was types of data, research process, what exactly is review of literature.
Okay.
What is hypothesis, types of hypothesis, null hypothesis, directional modeling, gaps in model, how to frame research objective, scale development, types of construct, etc. So, and further, if you ask me, I will tell you.
What more topics have been done? Just give me a quick review.
So we have studied R and R software, SPSS.
Okay. All right.
So
this is what the coverage has been. Coverage has been basically on the softwares and initial introduction to research methodology, right?
CP Gupta sir has taken the SPSS part, sir. Very
Okay.
elaborately he explained everything.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. So this
Okay,
was
fine.
the broad thing, and meta-analysis, systematic literature review was covered by Jaspreet Kaur yesterday.
Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
Very fine, dear friend. Thank you very much. So, thanks a lot, Mr. Altaf. Nice. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Today, my discussion is going to be on introduction to qualitative research and introduction to qualitative research and certain dimensions of the qualitative research. That is what I am going to discuss. Dr. Rajiv, I hope I am very clearly audible. There are no glitches in my sound.
No, sir.
Very
no,
fine.
sir. Everything is fine.
Excellent. Very fine. So let us begin our discussion, dear friends. You see, what you have studied so far in terms of research methodology, it is quantification. Quantification in the sense that you have studied the qualitative research, quantitative research. That is, everything is measurable. Now, whatever has been taught by Professor C.P. Gupta or Professor Neeraj Kaushik or Professor Jaspreet Kaur, whatever they have taught, it is based on a very important premise. And premise is that whatever subject we want to study, we want to examine, that subject, in that subject, whatever are the concepts and constructs, those should be measured. Those should be measurable. जैसे एक छोटा सा एक example, I can take a small example here. Say, for example, you want to study the impact of trust on performance. Say, for example, you want to study that. What is the impact of performance on trust? So what would you do in that? You will definitely measure, see the relationship between the two. And how to find the relationship? Your method is very simple here. You measure trust and you measure performance, and then carry out some technique called regression or correlation, and find out that number called coefficient of correlation. And if you want to display the causal relationship, then you would like to talk about finding the regression coefficient and its significance. And based on that, you will arrive at a conclusion regarding the subject you are studying. My dear friends. One second, let me just try if I can make use of the writing pad here. So let me just fix it up here on the laptop and see if I can. इसको डॉक्टर साहब एक बार ट्राई कर सकते हैं एक बार. लेट मी शेयर द स्क्रीन करके व्हाइट बोर्ड पर. लेट मी सी इफ आई कैन I. Oh yes, it is working fine. Eraser is here. Oh, wonderful. Draw. Was I using? No, not this. Can you guide me? अच्छा, यहाँ है whiteboard here. Can you, sir?
Yes, sir.
इसमें मे बी अभी जो लाइन थी वो क्या ये थी लाइन? अभी लाइन आ रही थी ना राइटिंग के लिए, जो वो टेक्स्ट के साथ थी क्या?
No. टेक्स्ट के साथ सर. हाँ.
नहीं सर.
Sir, if you click the green line, na sir, it will appear, sir. It will appear. If you click the green line.
You mean this new share? No. I want to share this one. मालूम नहीं क्या हो गया है. या अभी जो आ रहे थे ना, पेन जैसा दिखाई दे रहा था जो, वो will I see from here? Yeah, okay, got it. जैसे देखिए, say for example, you say really you want to study the relationship between trust and say performance. So what do? You find out, normally speaking, what is the trust, and you measure the trust. You measure it. Okay. And similarly, you measure performance. You measure this also. And what do? Here, either you use correlation or you use regression. And based on that, you find out the significance of the coefficient of correlation or the coefficient of regression. And based on that, you arrive at the conclusion whether the relationship is significant or not. And if you decide to have some mediating or moderating variables, say, for example, trust operates, has an impact through maturity, for example, and you say it is our mediation model. Simple mediation model, trust influences maturity and maturity influences performance, or maybe you decide that maturity is your moderating variable. So in which case, you will simply say that this relationship between trust and performance is actually moderated by presence or absence of maturity. Now here in such cases, you will say that our impact, you will study maybe structural equation modeling, SEM, and that model can help us arrive at the conclusion. But dear friends, this is a way of learning, way of arriving at some conclusions about the reality. Let me take you a little back first. And that is, why do we do research? One answer is very simple. So we do research for a simple question, simple answer. Please don't feel offended if I say this. We do research for getting PhD. We do research for, this could be an answer. We do research for publishing papers so that we can get promotion or we can get a better placement. Can any one of you tell me, those who can actually get on the board, answer me, why do we do research? What is the purpose of research? Somebody. I can see Dr. Abha Vadva, if she is listening to me. Her screen is on. Can you answer, ma'am? If you're listening. Why do we do research?
Sir, I am Dr. Abha Vadva from Dindiyal Upadhyay College.
Yes, ma'am.
And actually, I'm among the organizing committee of
Okay. So that is why you are here. You're not I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. So let the participants come forward.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Hanumanta, I can't see his full name, but Mr. or anybody else who can volunteer to answer. Sister Jinsi. Sister Jinsi, can you unmute and answer me? Why do we do research?
Sir, can I answer? This is Charu Jain.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes.
According to me, in order to find out the novelty.
In order to find out?
Some of the novelty and solving some of the research problems.
Oh, novelty. To find novelty. That is the purpose of research. Somebody else who can answer this? I want to have a few answers.
Yes, something to find out, something new we want to find out from our research area.
To find out your research area. Okay.
Something new that.
Something new.
Yeah.
This is Sister Jinsi, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, Dr. Gadekar is here.
Yeah, correct. Please come forward. Yes, I'm happy.
Yes, we do research to find out the new facts or to verify the old facts.
Okay, very good. Excellent.
And another one thing is sometime to solve the problems of the society, as I belong from the social work profession, I do research, intervention type of research to solve the problems of the community.
Very good. So, problem solving, Dr. Umesh Gadekar, I
Yes,
think
sir.
you're talking of for problem solving, we do research. For novelty, for finding something new, a new perspective, that we do the research. We try to relook at the existing concept. That is what I think Sister Jinsi said. So all the answers are correct. Yes, we try to do research. Research actually is with the purpose of A, problem solving, or it could be of the society, which is application, of course. And the research is to relook at the concepts, processes, and providing a new perspective. Absolutely fine. So basically, if I make this a statement, that research is also for the purposes of advancing knowledge and creation of new knowledge. Because if you are trying to solve the problem, or you are trying to look for novelty, you are trying to provide a new perspective, whatever you are trying to do, actually, you are trying to create new knowledge. And to that extent, you are trying to advance the frontiers of knowledge. Now, question is, when you are making an effort in that particular direction, and whatever you do for that purpose, whatever you do in this regard, in regard to novelty, new perspective, looking at the concept again, looking at method again, or trying to solve the society's problem, whatever you may do, whatever may be the purpose, will the knowledge created by you shall be acceptable or not? This is a very important thing. The first thing that we have to examine is, we have to see is the question of epistemology. By epistemology, I mean it is science of knowing. Epistemology is the science of knowing. And in very simple words, if we want to understand this, I would define it like this. I will define it. Epistemology deals with what is acceptable knowledge. 4 words. What is acceptable knowledge? Now, you may try to solve the problem in some way. You may try to make a generalization about a phenomenon. You want to give a new perspective or whatever. So will every addition to knowledge become acceptable knowledge? Just एक example देता हूँ आपको. Let me give you a small example, which I give very often. Very often I give this example. Say, for example, you visit Japan, and there you go to a restaurant, and while eating your food, you take off your expensive watch, which is expensive, let us say, even by Japanese standards. And that expensive watch you take off from your hand and keep it on the table, eat your food, and incidentally you happen to forget to collect your watch from the table, and you go away. And after coming home or the place of residence, you realize that you had forgotten your watch, and you are worried because it is expensive, and expensive even by Japanese standards. But you are on a short visit, and that very next day you have to go to a different city, which you cannot avoid. And you know that now you will be back after about a week's time. So you say you make a reconciliation in your mind. You do not have the telephone number of the restaurant also, so that you could talk to them. So you do nothing, but the next day you visit, you go on your journey ahead and come back after 1 week's time. And after coming back to the city, you make a visit to the restaurant once again, and you go and speak to the receptionist sitting there that you had come there. You speak to that person saying that you had come there last week, and you had taken food there, and you had forgotten your watch. and the receptionist sitting over there straight away says, "Oh, sir, yeah, very nice. I remember I have this watch with me. What was the make of your watch?" Whatever it is, does not even ask you what is the make of the watch. The gentleman opens the drawer, takes out the watch, keeps it in front of you, and you have a very big, broad smile on your face. "Oh my God. Oh, yeah, exactly. This is the one. Thank you very much." And he does not ask you any questions and simply hands it over. You just take it up, wear it on your wrist, come back. This is an incident that has happened. You have empirically observed that Japanese are very honest people. And then you make a generalization on the basis of that this is Japanese are honest people. Finished. Now, what you have done is, through your observation, you have made a generalization. That's it. Now, question is this acceptable knowledge? Question is this: can this be accepted as knowledge, or it cannot be accepted as knowledge? Now, epistemology deals with it. And there are two schools of thought in this regard. One school of thought is known as positivism. That is, to be acceptable knowledge, for any knowledge to become acceptable knowledge, certain conditions must be fulfilled. Are those conditions fulfilled by this particular generalization about the phenomenon? Phenomenon is character of Japanese. Now, this is one issue. Now here, please notice one thing, what I'm trying to say. Actually, the way this incident reveals, in this incident we said that you are making a generalization that Japanese are honest people. Fine. But is it acceptable? And we are, just look at your lives every day. Every day, each one of us keeps making generalizations like this about different phenomena, different things. For example, food made at my home is very spicy. General statement, for example, go to Hyderabad. The food you find over there is very, very spicy as compared with the food which is available in, say, Delhi. Now, is this acceptable knowledge? Should we accept this? The generalizations. Now, thing is, all knowledge cannot become acceptable knowledge. To become acceptable knowledge, certain conditions must be fulfilled. And there are two schools of thought in this regard. One school of thought is what we call, technically, this was a term which was popularized by Auguste Comte. And you know, he had written a book, Société Positiviste. And according to, just a minute, can I just, please forgive me, I'm sorry, I just took this time off. Yeah. So this book was Société Positiviste, And this book, he had founded this society, Society Positiviste, in 1848. And through that, this term, positivism, became popular. Now, what is this word positivism? The positivism is a paradigm, is a perspective of what can be the acceptable knowledge. Okay. Now, the basic cornerstone of this particular school of thought are the following. Number one, the most important pillar of this particular school of thought is that the knowledge must be generated through observation and measurement. Very important. Two things: observable and measurable. And the followers of this school, which is a dominant school, I am sure a large number of persons who are sitting in this FDP, they must have followed, knowingly or unknowingly, the positivist school of thought only. Now, dear friends, in this school of thought, when the first class takes place, when we start teaching according to this school, the assertion that is made is, what cannot be measured does not exist. Simply. So the first cornerstone is, you must be able to observe and you must be able to measure. Okay. And of course, the term positivism was popularized by Comte, Auguste Comte, but generally speaking, the father of this particular school was Galileo. Actually, if you remember, or you might have heard this, Galileo was the first one to have said that God has written not God. He simply says, universe is written in the language of mathematics. And you know what he said? He stated that there are only 4 things that must be there for studying a phenomenon. Every phenomenon, every subject can be studied with respect to 4 things. And these 4 things are shape, location, motion, and size. See the 4 things. All the 4 things can be measured. Size, motion, location, and size, motion,
shape, location, and shape.
Yes, thank you very much. Asal mein, my phone is troubling me a lot. Let me keep it aside. Again and again, the calls are coming. They distract. I have just kept it aside. Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So, my dear friends, Mr. Himanshu Mohan, you can mute your Mr. Himanshu Mohan. Mr. Himanshu Mohan, can you please put your system on mute? Thank you.
I'll do that, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It's okay. So dear friends, now please notice one thing. Here, the thing is that all these 4 things can be measured. But iske liye one example I can give you. Say, for example, there is a tree in a forest and it falls. When the tree falls in the forest, it makes a movement, motion. Vibrations are created, they can be measured. You know, something happens along with this, so the tree falls. Can somebody tell me, if the tree falls, what can we observe there if we are present? Can anybody tell me? Somebody please. Anju Nandra Jog, Dr. Pooja Gulati, if you are not one of the organizers and if you are a participant, if you are in a forest and a tree falls, what would you observe?
So can I answer?
Yeah, yes.
It might be a very funny, answer.
Yeah.
Might be that how many fruits will fall down from the tree?
Okay, fruits will fall down. Very fine. All right, what else will happen?
The noise or the destruction part.
Yes. Okay, good. I was just waiting for this. Noise. Now, Galileo says noise is something which is not real. Noise is, or the sound, as far as sound is concerned, it is not real. It is not true. Sound will be experienced only when a human being is over there. If the human being is not there, then only motion will be measured. Or maybe you can say size of the tree may get shortened because it is quite possible that the tree trunk gets broken and it becomes 2 trees instead of 1. So only motion is the most important thing that would happen. As far as the question of sound is concerned, the sound is not the phenomenon. Sound is inside the human being. If the human being is not there, sound would not be there. And there would be no smell also of the forest. Because smell is something only when human being is there, they only experience it. Similarly, the visual acuity. So sound, taste, watching something, vision. So hearing, seeing, listening, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, these are the things which are, or coarseness for that matter, these are the questions of human soul. So when you want to study the phenomena can be studied with respect to only 4 things which are all measurable: size, location, motion, and shape. That's it. That is what he said. And this is how Galileo said right in the beginning that the universal phenomena, physical phenomena, needs to be studied, examined. And based on that, he brought out his own understanding of the universe. The same tradition has been continuing by and large. And this has been articulated later on by the scientists themselves. And they say, we have added many things to this. Observable, measurement. Third thing is objectivity. Objectivity, by objectivity, what do we mean? By objectivity, we mean that the biasness of the researcher should not enter the study, should not enter the examination of the phenomena. It should be objective. There should be a separation between the observer and the observed. And after that, one more thing was added to this. And that was that not only should there be measurement, observation, objectivity, but also there should be repeatability, testability. That is the verifiability. That the phenomenon that you are studying or examining should be verifiable, should be testable, should be repeatable. And if these features are not available, then the knowledge that would be generated would not be the acceptable knowledge. And what do we say here? We say here that technically only that knowledge will be acceptable which is posited. By posited or by posit, I mean the word posit here suggests that something is, there is something called a basic fact or a principle from which further idea is formed or developed. Now, जैसे एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल देते हैं, हम कहेंगे कि, say for example, natural religion. What is natural religion? So what is natural religion? Now, this is the religion which people reason their way to. That is, they work out the existence of God or the duty of divine worship and so on by rational argument. That is, the natural religion will be developed out of rational argument based on the knowledge of the world. Now, why do we call it natural? We call it natural religion for one reason, because it seems to stem, it seems to emerge from the nature of things. Now, if I say what is as against the natural religion, there is positive religion. And positive religion is not the outcome of this logical reasoning. It is essentially something which is posited, P-O-S-I-T-E-D. What is posited? As I told you the meaning. Word posit means something, a basic fact or a principle from which further idea is generated, further idea is developed, further idea is formed. So we say religion which is something which is posited. And what is posited? That the fundamental idea of the religion is the divinely revealed truth. It is not arrived by reasoning, but it is arrived at, it is taken as something which is given, which is the divine revelation. This is what I mean by saying posited. So in positivism, the similar idea of positing the knowledge, that is taken forward. And what is that? What is that? That is, it is grounded, that the science is grounded firmly or exclusively in something that is positive. I repeat, that it is, science is the generation of knowledges, generation of scientific knowledges, grounded firmly and exclusively in something that is posited. The basis of the kind of science is therefore direct experience and not speculation. It is, I repeat again, that the knowledge is direct experience, that is observation, and not some kind of abstract knowledge. And that is why the things like ethics, aesthetics, metaphysics, they are kept out of the border of ambit of science, dear friends. So now, when we make this assertion that only that knowledge will be acceptable, which is by direct experience, observation, based on measurement, something which cannot be measured, does not exist. And when we say that the knowledge, whatever knowledge you generate, it should be verifiable, testable, repeatable, then the knowledge will be acceptable knowledge. This we call positivism, dear friends. And there is one more aspect to this. You know, from positive, we have gone to the post-positivism. And in post-positivism also, there is little extension of the idea of positivism, that when we keep verifying, it is based on the verification principle. And the verification principle is that we keep verifying. We verify the phenomenon that we talk about, that must be put forward. And here also comes the principle of what we will call the principle of falsification. And what is this falsification? Falsification is this, dear friends. Again, another aspect of how acceptable knowledge would be generated. And I'm coming to the qualitative research very soon, after understanding what positivist science is. Now see, here we say that there is when we are trying to study a phenomenon, it is stated that this process of study actually involves a continuous process of making conjecture, a continuous process of making guess, continuous process of making some kind of some imagination about the working of the phenomenon and falsifying it. Please note that. we make a guess and then find ourselves unable to prove that guess as wrong. I repeat, what is the process of falsification? Falsification is that in this approach, the scientists, researchers, they make an effort, they make a guess about the phenomenon, whether it is social phenomenon or it is physical phenomenon. They say that you make a guess about the phenomenon and then you make an effort. And when you are unable to prove the guess wrong, as long as your guess is proved wrong, very fine. It is falsified. So it is not knowledge. But when we find that we are unable to prove it wrong, despite very big hard work going into it, despite highly strenuous efforts to falsify the guess, then that knowledge will continue. Now, dear friends, what I have done so far is that to make you understand that this is one way of looking at generation of acceptable knowledge. Basic fundamentals are as follows. I repeat: measurement, observation, direct experience, measurement. Number two, apart from measurement, there has to be testability, repeatability, verifiability, and process of falsification. And what is that falsification? That we make the scientific effort is defined as a process of making continual conjectures and guesses about the phenomenon and making an effort to prove that wrong. So when we are unable to prove something wrong, our guess, conjecture wrong, then we accept it as the truth. And it is then taken as part of the, dear friends, acceptable knowledge. So this is one school of thought. And what are the implications of this school of thought? The implication of this school of thought is quantitative research. And what is quantitative research? The research process in quantitative research, the focus is on measuring, and after measuring, using mathematical or statistical tools to show the presence or absence of causality. That is what it is concerned with. So far, whatever lectures you have had, those lectures were essentially rooted in what I will say, the question of the quantitative approach. And this quantitative approach is basically very linear. And what is linear? You can see the linearity in your process of research. What do you do? If I say you write a research paper, or if I say you write a research proposal, how do you go about it? You do the following steps. One step followed by the other. You write an introduction. You introduce the subject. After introducing the subject, you show the importance of the subject. Very fine. So far, so good. No problem. And then comes the major thing. Review of literature. What has been done by others? And then you find research gap. Based on research gap, you then define objectives. After objectives, you decide research questions. And based on research questions, you set up your hypothesis. Depending on the demands of your objectives, research questions, and hypotheses, you decide what kind of data you would require. And then in social sciences, you gather the data by measurement, whether it is psychological phenomenon, or it is managerial phenomenon, or it is geographical data, or anything, social geographical data, physical geographical data, or any kind of data that you can think of. And those data are then organized and then subjected to statistical analysis. And whether it is, and this statistical data, based on the statistical analysis, you arrive at conclusions, and then you make a discussion and your research project is over. And this is actually your acceptable knowledge, my dear friends. This particular, I think it is addressing the social sciences, this workshop, this program.
Yes,
Am I right?
yes, sir.
Right. It is for the, so in social sciences also, what we are doing in social sciences, look at the word social science. The word social is attached with science. This social science word has emerged from the fact that methods of physical science are being adopted to study the social phenomena, the social subject. That is what actually it is, my dear friends. That is why the word social science. In this approach, in this quantitative approach, what we are doing is that we are adopting and applying the same method into social science, social subjects, social psychological subjects, social and social psychological, anthropological subjects. The same methods which are used to study atoms and chemicals and other physical phenomena. This is what it is. Now, question here is, dear friends, is it correct? Is it appropriate? Now comes the question. Number one, these scientific methods, allow me to use this term now for the first time. The method of positivism is actually known as scientific, allow me to use it as scientific method adopted by sciences. The cornerstone of science is measurement, observation, and one more thing, objectivity. That is, there is a difference between the observer and the observed. There is a gap between them. The researcher cannot be part of the researcher cannot be the subject. Researcher's personal bias is not there. And number two, what is observed is truth. For example, I gave you the example of relationship between trust and performance. How do we measure trust? We measure trust with the help of a questionnaire. And whatever is given in that questionnaire, the questions that you develop through a scale measurement process, and whatever data you collect, that is taken as final truth. Here we do not ask a question why the data is the way it is. We do not, that is to say, we do not look at the generative mechanisms because it is not observable. Why this particular data has been, why the questionnaire has been filled by a person in a certain way. When we are collecting data in social sciences through scales, we do not ask that question. Because the generative mechanism, the mechanism which is causing it, is not observable. I hope this particular point is reaching my audience. Dr. Shilpi Saxena, Dr. Pooja Gulati, am I able to communicate my point? The
Yes, sir.
Point of generative mechanism. Mr. Himanshu Mohan, Samiksha Sinha. Yes. Ms. Anuradha, Bhuvnesh, are you here? Mr. Jagannath.
Yes, sir, we are here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. मेरी बात आप तक पहुंच रही है? Am I able to communicate my point?
Yes, sir.
Clearly.
Sister Jinsi, are you here? Sister Jinsi.
Yes, sir. Bhunesh Kumar Parihar.
Yes, sir. Okay, good. Sister
Yes.
Jinsi.
Yes.
When you fill up, I'm repeating, when you use the scales, when you use the instruments, at that particular moment, Mr. Bhuvanesh, at that particular moment, why the questionnaire is being filled, the way it is being filled is a question we do not ask in this approach. Because the questionnaire is being filled because of a certain generative mechanism. There is a certain background of your subject. but it is not observable. It is not directly observable. Therefore, what do? We accept what is observed. What is not observed is beyond our scope. So this is one very important difference, my dear friends. Now, in the generation of knowledge, therefore, we say cornerstones are, I'm again saying, observation, measurement, repeatability, testability, falsification, and to this I am adding now objectivity. Now, what does the word objectivity mean? Objectivity means that the phenomenon which you are studying, dear friends, that phenomenon has a meaning irrespective of researcher observing it or not observing it. Please repeat this. Relationship between trust and performance just exists. It is there until you discover it. Whether you discover it or you don't discover it, it does not matter. For example, a tree exists in the forest. An atom exists in a certain way. A chemical exists in a certain way. So meaning will be assigned to it later by the researcher. But the characteristics are objectively existent. Please understand. Irrespective of the researcher's observation, the reality exists objectively. I hope I'm able to communicate this particular point. The characteristics, the features, the relationships, the structure of the phenomenon that you are studying, whether social or physical, it just exists objectively. And it is for the researcher to discover those objective characteristics and features. Now, this is what positivism is, dear friends. Now, contrast this. इसको अब हम कंट्रास्ट करते हैं. हम कंट्रास्ट ये करते हैं कि जो रियलिटी है, does it exist objectively or does it exist subjectively? I have paused. I've paused myself deliberately, dear friends. Do we construct the reality, or the reality is just there, the way it exists?
The way it exists.
The way. This is what positivism is, my dear friends. अब यहाँ पर एक काम करते हैं. ये जो मेथड है, जो मैंने आपसे अभी डिस्कस किया, पॉजिटिविज्म का मेथड, this has been followed by sciences to a very great extent. But the science has still, this method of science has failed humanity in seeking answers to a few questions. Okay, and an alternative thinking as a result has also emerged simultaneously. तो पहले एक बार देखते हैं कि what are the failures, then I'll come to the qualitative part of it. क्या इसके क्या failure रहे हैं इस science के as we know it, the positivist science, positivism or post-positivism, the epistemology means what is acceptable knowledge, dear friends. कुछ चीजें देखिए, जरा ध्यान दीजिए. पहला, first thing, this science has failed to tell us, this science has failed to tell us, number one, from where did the Big Bang come? Where did the Big Bang come from? It has not answered this. We still do not know, despite this advancement of this approach. I don't know whether there was a problem with this approach, but this approach has failed to give answer to the question how the life began. It has also failed to tell us about the origin of time. Actually, I would say origin of time, space, and matter. And more important than that, it has failed to tell us the relationship between mind and brain. Please notice this. What is the relationship between the mind and the brain? And what is the nature of consciousness? How this consciousness has evolved, if it has evolved at all, or if it is constant. This we don't know. And one more thing, very important thing, my dear friends. How the brain creates this three-dimensional world. We have sight, we have sound, we have taste, we have sight, sound, taste, smell, and we have touch. Everything is done by the body in this three-dimensional world through the brain inside. What is the role of chemicals inside them? The electrical currents are there. We do not know anything about it yet. Anything means, I'm not saying anything, but substantially we do not know. Do we perceive the world because of the chemicals inside? If the chemicals change, we perceive the world differently. For example, look at the patient, we call them patients of schizophrenia. For example, that chemical composition inside the brain changes and the person starts seeing, say, an ocean somewhere close to him. That is, the person starts dreaming while one is awake. So is it only because of the chemical compositions? We don't have very clear answers to this. All right. So this is what it is. An interesting thing, one more thing. There are two types of physics which have come up. Physics of big masses, big objects, and the physics of atom. And very often, the physics of the two are at variance with each other. Okay? Just for example, in positivism, we say there is always a cause and effect relationship. And we see that cause leads to effect. Now, question is it really true that always cause will be preceding and effect will be succeeding? That is, effect will always come from after the cause. Is it true? Is it the truth? Now, this question is raised when we talk in terms of the science of small things, the atom. Just for example, we know that when we look at the particles, if we look at the particles, it was observed in some of the experiments that when the two particles collide, when they strike each other, we know from the simple principle of physics, if the two things collide, if you collide two cups, then the two cups will break into the pieces of a small size. Collision is the cause, and effect is very simple. It will become smaller in size. The objects will become smaller in size. You collide any object. When they collide, when there is a collision, there will be result, and result will be that the two objects will get splattered into the small pieces. Now, when this particular thing was done with respect to particles, when the particles collided, they also broke, and they broke into the pieces. That was correct, but they did not break into the pieces of a smaller size. They broke into the pieces of equal size. Now, this observation has been used as a challenge to the conventional understanding of cause and effect. And here, what is happening? Destruction and construction is taking place simultaneously at the same time. So what is truth? Is the truth that cause is leading to the effect, or it is something else? Now please see, because of these failures of science following the positivist approach completely and fully, positivist approach in the sense of, as I said, measurement, observation, objective observation and measurement, testability, repeatability, falsification, and things like this. This science has failed to answer a number of questions. So a new track is therefore has been emerging. And what is it saying? Please note, some very interesting phenomena are coming. और उसके बाद हम आएंगे अभी अपने qualitative approach की तरफ. See, number one thing is that universe isn't something random. Universe exists, there is a purpose of the universe, and there is a goal seeking in the universe. The phenomenon, according to positivism, as just now one of the scholars also spoke and said, objectivity is there. It exists just like that. But here we are saying no. Irrespective of observation, it exists according to the positivist approach. But here we say no. The phenomena, the universe is there, every object has a goal, physical or otherwise. It has a certain purpose. The universe, entire universe, is not something random. It is just existing for its own sake. No, there is a purpose for it. And second one, that consciousness is built into the scheme of nature. Second aspect, which is challenging the objectivism. That is, there is consciousness. Since there is a purpose, it also means that there is consciousness which is built into the scheme of nature. And a very important point here I will make. Very important point, very relevant to the students of management, commerce, psychology, sociology, social geography, and others. That instead of individual minds, there may be a cosmic mind. I repeat now, and I will make a small modification. Please note it. Note the modification. That instead of the existence of individual minds, there may be a cosmic mind, and individual minds mirror that cosmic mind. This is the track of thinking. When we talk of relationship between, when we want to study mind, how do we study mind? Is it to be studied through brain, or it is to be studied in terms of its thought processes? So we say no. Individual mind actually may be a manifestation of the cosmic mind. And one more thing that is being said here, that the physical matter, it behaves in mind-like ways. Just as the mind functions, so does physical matter. Physical matter, just like mind, is a thing of probabilities. There could be an innumerable number of perceptions of a phenomenon when it is presented to minds, depending upon a large number of factors. So, similarly, matter also may behave in mind-like ways. All right. So what is very, and one more very important thing, another challenge, another track, another new way of thinking, that in positivism, what we call facts, what you observe are just the facts. No, we don't say that. Here we say that instead of looking at observations as facts, we consider facts as body of knowledge, states of knowledge, to be precise. And the reality, therefore, the reality is not a specific objective reality. Reality actually is a range of possibilities. There is no single reality. Please notice, there is no single reality. Instead, there are possibilities. That is, the meaning is then actually assigned. Meaning is constructed. When you look at the phenomena, There is no objective meaning. Instead, the meaning is really created. It is constructed, my dear friends. एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल करते हैं. I would like 2-3 persons to come forward. मैं शेयर कर रहा हूँ स्क्रीन आपके साथ दोबारा से. And I'm bringing the whiteboard here. And let me delete this portion. Oh, just a minute. I am using a writing board along with this, so that will help me.
Sir, you can clear it at one go. Clear out. Things there, sir.
I'm not able to hear you, sir. I think work is done. Next time, you please, I'll seek your guidance. I want help from some people here. I'm writing a few words, my dear friends. Let me type the text here. Beauty, collapse, spring, sweet, distress. Now, page 33, I have reproduced somewhere. And this is a poem. This is a poem, my dear friends. Now, can somebody please think for 2 minutes about it? I'm not 3 minutes, 2 minutes. I'm giving you 30 seconds. Please think about this poem. And then I will pick your names, and you will have to give me the meaning of these. Yes, please. Vishnu, Mr. Vishnu Adsare. Mr. Vishnu, can you please come on mic? Mr. Vishnu, are you here, Mr. Vishnu?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please interpret this poem for me. And after Mr. Vishnu, I will request just wait a minute. I'm not able to. Dr. Rupali Lok. After that, yes, please start. Start the interpretation, please. Please start. We're waiting. क्या हुआ, आपका आवाज नहीं आ रही है? Dr. K. Subulakshmi, can you unmute and come forward? Hello, Dr. Subulakshmi.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please name yourself.
Hello.
Start. What is your interpretation? Poem.
right idea about this. Sorry, sir.
No?
No, sir, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, all right. So, Gangmume Kemei, Mr.
Yes, sir, I hope, yes, sir, I'm here. I hope my voice is audible.
Can you interpret this poem?
To me, I think this is about life. It includes beauty, both material, non-material, insightful, reflective.
Very good.
Sometimes we as humans, yes, sometimes we do collapse. And I think that particular point of collapse is also linking with the last point of distress. Sometimes we are completely stressful during the time of pandemic, during the time of war. And I also recall the, novel of Peace and War. Yeah. And also in every life, there is also a spring, like whenever there is light, there is darkness. So there is always a spring in every life. There is sweetness, there is bitterness. I'm also trying to see the two poles, like whenever there is sweet, there is also bitterness in life.
Okay.
And yes, obviously in human lives, we also look through the angle of logic. We cannot just keep looking into the subjectivity. We also look into the logical aspects of life. And yeah, that's how I'm trying to see it. Maybe I might be completely wrong in my reflection.
Very good. This is a reflection. Very good. Excellent. Whatever, subjective. Yes, Ritika Verma, will you come forward? Ritika Verma. What is your interpretation? Are you here? Yeah. Mr. Pandurang, Professor Pandurang. Professor Pandurang. Professor Pandurang. All right. Saloni Singh. Kya baat hai bhai? Why are you so quiet? It is such a simple thing.
Sir, may I?
Sure.
Because you said this is a poem, so maybe it is a poem. Sorry.
What is your name? What is your name?
I am Dr. Falguni.
Okay.
And since you mentioned that it is a poem, somebody interpreted it as a poem.
Yeah.
But to me, these are only 6 words put on page number 33.
Oh, wonderful. So please interpret them.
That's my interpretation. I'm saying that these are 6 words put on page number 33.
Okay.
Actually, sir, I think this is the intention of this poem is to that we cannot see the real beauty with the help of the logical mind. That we have to think not logic. If we cannot enjoy the real beauty with the help of the logical mind, we have to remove the logic to feel the real things of the nature or the life.
What is your name, sir? What is your name?
Yeah, Rakesh Kumar. Myself is Rakesh Kumar.
Okay, Dr. Rakesh. Right.
Yeah.
एक बार फिर से बोलिए. Please speak once again.
Yeah, actually, sir, in my opinion, the intention of this, whatever the poem or word it may be, that we cannot feel the real things with the help of the logical mind. Logical mind is the interpretation. If we are going to apply the interpretative knowledge, then we cannot feel the real beauty or real sweetness of the life or nature or whatever it may be.
Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. Someone else, please. I want 2-3 more interpretations. Dr. Falguni had one opinion. Mr. Gangmei had one opinion. And Dr. Rakesh has given another opinion. Somebody else, please.
Can I try, sir? My name is Kavita.
Yeah, sure, please.
I'll just try because I'm really a quantitative person, but I'll try my best.
Please carry on. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, so beauty of the spring, that is really sweet. And however, if you like, I think I agree with some of the previous.
Your voice has gone. Your voice has gone.
But if you try to see this beauty with the logical mind, can you now hear me?
Yes, we can hear now. Yes.
Yeah, so, but if you try to see this beauty with a logical mind, then it all collapses to a lot of distress, something like that.
Okay.
One more thing that I can add, sir.
What is your name? The lady who was speaking just now, what's her name?
Sir, my name is Kavita, Dr. Kavita Sardana.
Dr. Kavita. Very good. Yes, please introduce yourself and then proceed. Yes, gentlemen, you are coming in. Please come in.
Sir, can I add some little bit?
Yeah. Name, please name. Give your name and then speak.
Rakesh Kumar is again Rakesh Kumar.
Again, Dr. Rakesh Kumar. Okay.
Actually, sir, it is the scenario. If suppose if there is any flower, if you are thinking in a logical way, then you cannot enjoy the beauty of that particular flower. If you have to see only in the sense of the flower, or it is the gift of the nature, then only you can enjoy the beauty of that flower. Otherwise, if you are thinking in the logical way that what are the different part of the flower, what is the structure of the flower, then you can never enjoy the beauty of that flower.
Okay, wonderful.
The same sense of this poem.
Wonderful.
Or understand, apply the logical mind have to reach the enjoy of the life.
Okay.
What is real-time communication? Text, audio, and video communication can happen in real time on the web. The real-time communication tools include chat, audio, video, file transfer, document sharing. What is Skype? Skype is voice over internet protocol services to do instant messaging.
There is somebody who is
and make calls and video calls to fellow Skype users on the internet for free.
Define the term real-time communication.
Real-time communication. Text, audio, and video. Text, audio, video, and messaging can happen in real time online together.
On the web.
On the web. Real-time communication tools include chat, audio, video,
Organizers, please look at this.
Meenakshi Kumawat, ma'am, please mute yourself. Meenakshi Kumawat.
Yes, okay. Now let us come back. Anyway, it was a good break given to Meenakshi Kumawat. Yes, somebody else. Dr. Shilpi Saxena, please come in.
Sir, to me, this sixth word, if I would have to explain it, so first I'll just make a pairing of these two words. Say, for example, first pair will be of beauty and collapse. So to me, the interpretation will be like this: is beauty is something which is associated with each and every individual, be it be a human, be it be a non-humanistic thing, but surely one day it will collapse. The second pairing will be of spring and sweet, wherein we could interpret as if spring is a season which is very sweet if we take it in a positive manner. And the third pair comes out to be logical and distress. For it, I would like to interpret as if we are logical, if we try to find out logic behind each and everything, then stress or distress is something which we will never face it. But if logic is not there, and then also we are just enforcing the thing or doing that particular thing, obviously we need we will be facing the situation like stress. So
Wonderful.
This is my interpretation or reflection of these 6 words
Good.
in a paired manner.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Sunil Kumar.
नमस्कार सर, हिंदी में उच्चारित कर सकता हूँ क्योंकि हिंदी का विद्यार्थी हूँ। सर, जो मैंने पाया इससे जो कविता आपने यहाँ पे बताई है, उसके संदर्भ में
डॉक्टर सुनील 1 सेकेंड, I hope the people who are from South, they can appreciate it is okay with them. Is it all right? I can see good number of friends who are there from South India. So I hope Hindi is okay for you. Is okay? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Professor
okay, sir.
Jinsi and Mr. Hanumanta, if I can recognize the names. Mr. Gangmei, Hindi is all right for you?
Bilkul, sir. Go ahead.
Very nice. Thank you. So I think we'll go with this. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Sunil.
ओके सर जो मैं अगर इस
सिंपल हिंदी बोलिए so that everybody can understand.
ठीक है सर, ठीक है, जैसे आप कहें। मैं अगर इस कविता के माध्यम से बात करूं, चूंकि साहित्य का विद्यार्थी हूं, लिटरेचर का स्टूडेंट हूं, तो थोड़ा सा लिटरेरी पर्सपेक्टिव में थोड़ा सा इसको मैं मतलब इंटरप्रेट करूंगा या विश्लेषित करूंगा, जिसको हिंदी में कहूं तो ये जो आपने कविता यहाँ रखी है सबके सामने, तो मैंने जो पाया है कि जो खूबसूरती है, जिसको आपने ब्यूटी कहा, तो ये जो खूबसूरती है, चाहे वो व्यक्तिगत हो यानी मनुष्य से संबंधित हो, चाहे वो प्रकृति से संबंधित हो, एक समय पे आके सब नष्ट होता है। यानी कि व्यक्ति भी नष्ट होता है और प्रकृति में जो चीजें हैं वो भी मतलब समय अनुसार नष्ट होती हैं, और जीवन चक्र जो है वो चलता रहता है। फिर स्प्रिंग आता है, यानी कि लाइफ जो है वो दोबारा अपनी पटरी पे आती है धीरे धीरे, और फिर जब लाइफ दोबारा निकलती है, यानी जीवन जो है दोबारा शुरू होता है, तो व्यक्ति के जीवन में एक खूबसूरती जो है वो आ जाती है। और जो अंतिम दो वर्ड्स हैं, जो लास्ट के दो वर्ड्स हैं कि लॉजिकल और डिस्ट्रेस, यहाँ जो मैं अगर साहित्यिक बात करूं, तो अगर हम लॉजिक पे जाएंगे तो डिस्ट्रेस या मतलब थोड़ा सा कहीं ना कहीं डिस्ट्रेस रहेंगे। उसका कारण ये है कि चूंकि अगर हम शोधार्थियों की बात करूं, रिसर्चर की बात करूं, तो वो बात करेंगे लॉजिकल, हम अगर किसी और से बात करेंगे तो वो कभी भी लॉजिकल बात नहीं समझेंगे। तो वहां आके जो एक रिसर्चर है, जो एक शोधार्थी है, वो कहीं ना कहीं डिस्ट्रेस में रहेगा। तो ये जो संपूर्ण भाव है, ये मैंने इस कविता के माध्यम से समझा सर, यही मैंने आपके समक्ष किया। धन्यवाद सर, नमस्कार।
अल्ताफ मलिक, आप आ जाइए लाइन पे। अनम्यूट कर लीजिए, अनम्यूट। और एक मुश्किल सवाल है, आपसे पूछूंगा, और बाकी लोग भी इस सवाल को, others also can answer this. ध्यान, listen to the question. Which one of the interpretations is correct? It reflects, which one of these reflects reality of this? Mark my words, please, all of you, all the participants, mark my words. I'm choosing my words very, very carefully. Whatever is on the board, whatever is on the whiteboard here on the screen, represents some reality. It represents some reality, a reality. And different versions of reality have come, ranging from what Dr. Sunil Kumar has said. And then you go back to Dr. Shilpi. She said pairing. She paired these words. And in the beginning, it was Dr. Gangmei who also interpreted it, beauty of the material things and individual and non-material things. They collapse, spring comes, etc. And there was interpretation given by Mr. Dr. Rakesh Kumar. And at another extreme was the view given by Dr. Falguni. She said, I see just 6 words. 6 words. I don't know if she allowed me to use that word, add an adjective to the word words. 6 random words. अब मिस्टर अल्ताफ, आपके लिए सवाल है.
So,
the reality which is there in front of you,
yeah,
and the reality which has been presented to by 6 learned people, सब पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं.
Yes, sir.
किसकी रियलिटी ठीक है?
सर, सभी की रियलिटी ठीक है अपनी अपनी जगह.
एक मिनट, अब वेट करिए, अब रुक जाइए आप.
Yes, sir.
Can by show of hands people tell me how many of you agree with Mr. Altaf Malik? इस सभी की रियलिटी ठीक है? बड़ा डीप क्वेश्चन है. It is a very deep question. I hope people are here on the screen. मतलब कुछ लोग तो छोड़ के चले भी गए होंगे. आजकल ऐसा फैशन होता है. But I am assuming that everybody is here. चलिए, जो लोग ऑन कर सकते हैं कर दीजिए. Yes, 1, 2. दो लोग का एग्रीमेंट मिला. 3 participants raise their hands. अभी अपना हैंड रेज रखिएगा. 4, Mr. Kuldeep Singh, fine. Who else? Who else? That's all. Mr. Gangmei, you also can. 5. You also can raise your hand, Mr. Gangmei. Okay, good. And others like Dr. Falguni, those who are 7, yes. Yes. 8. Very fine. Yes. Okay. Dr. Anu Kohli is writing, it's their perception. Nazia Hassan says, agreed, sir. Dr. Vinita to everyone also says yes. 9. In chat box, I can see their responses. Dr. Sunil Kumar कहते हैं नहीं, ये reality इस सबकी ये सही नहीं है. Dr. Altaf ठीक नहीं है. We'll come to you shortly. Yes, please. So, can I assume that everybody who is here is okay, agreed? Yes, right. ठीक है. All right. Okay, all right, fine. These 8-9 responses are okay. Out of what number do we have? I don't know. What is the total number present here?
Am I going to answer next question, sir?
हाँ, Mr. Sunil, आप कुछ कह रहे थे. आप कह रहे थे कि no, you don't agree with this.
नहीं सर, मतलब मैं सबसे एग्री करता हूँ जिन्होंने व्याख्यात किया. मैं सिर्फ एक मैम से एग्री नहीं करता हूँ जिन्होंने कहा ये 6 वर्ड्स है मियर. क्योंकि कोई भी शब्द जो होता है बिना किसी व्याख्या के नहीं बनता है. यानी शब्द का अर्थ होता ही होता है अपने आप में. विदाउट दैट मुझे नहीं लगता कि शब्द केवल मात्र शब्द बनते हैं.
प्लीज लिसन. नहीं, आप इसको चलिए, आप ऐसे सोच लीजिए, कोई बात नहीं. लेकिन जो बात है, डॉक्टर फाल्गुनी ने बड़ा स्पेसिफिक आंसर दिया. दिस इज अ पोएम. No, my objective, my word, these words are given there as a poem.
जी.
And she says कि she rejected the very hypothesis कि poem ही नहीं है. उन्होंने कहा कि ये 6 रैंडम वर्ड हैं.
वही जी.
तो क्या उनकी इंटरप्रिटेशन गलत है?
नहीं सर, अपने आप में तो उनकी नजर में सही है.
बस ठीक है. That is all. तो मतलब क्या हुआ? अभी जो मैंने आपको नए ट्रैक के, एक तो पॉजिटिविस्ट ट्रैक ऑफ थिंकिंग था और एक मैंने कहा नया ट्रैक. नए ट्रैक के मैंने आपको कुछ फीचर्स बताए थे. और फीचर्स क्या थे? एक लास्ट फीचर यदि आपको रह गया हो याद, वो ये था, सेकंड लास्ट फीचर था वो ये था कि फैक्ट्स आर नॉट सिंपल फैक्ट्स. फैक्ट्स आर states of knowledge. दूसरा हमने कहा reality is a infinite possibilities. All right, this is very important of the thing. तो मतलब क्या हुआ कि जो reality है वो objective नहीं है. Reality is constructed. You see a phenomenon and the reality is constructed. When it is constructed, so it becomes subjective. It is a question of consciousness. If there is consciousness of the objects, then it is possible that reality can be observed subjectively too. And from, yes, somebody asking question? There are 6
sir, but with some limitations, sir, I think.
We will come to that later.
Yes. Okay, sir.
First, we start with the possibilities.
Yeah.
आप कुछ contribute करना चाहते हैं? शिल्पी सक्सेना, नैशमील, कुलदीप सिंह जी, पूजा गुलाटी और डॉक्टर पूजा गुलाटी and डॉक्टर मधु मुर्दिया. और your hand is up from the last question.
And also, if I may add one more point, if we look from the perspective of...
Please give your name.
My name is Gangumai Kame, sir.
Mr. Gangumai, yeah.
Yeah, so I was trying to also say about the multiple realities that is constructed. And if we look from the postmodernist perspective,
yes,
postmodern, yeah, I think this particular point that you mentioned, I think it's quite clear that reality is very much constructed no matter what words or poems is given.
Okay.
Yeah, postmodernist भी कहते हैं कि like yes, but reality is constructed, and this particular points which you mentioned.
Actually, I am bringing you to the same point. Actually, I'm coming to the same point. In fact, I'm coming to the same point. What is your field of study, Mr. Gangmei? English?
Sir, actually, I'm from psychology.
Psychology, yes. Okay, so you know it. Okay, but my address is to the common people around here. So we are coming to the same point. What you're saying is right. I understand constructionism. So, my dear friends, with this, let us. We have this session. Let us end this session at this note that there is a possibility that the reality has very large number of possibilities, and it cannot be, the reality cannot be confined to a simplified model of a study of relationships, of the phenomena, or the study of phenomena. And in this aspect lies the root of the qualitative research. Okay, how qualitative research and what are its aspects and dimensions, that we will take in the second session. So can we have a break for about 15 minutes time, Mr. Rajiv Nayan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You take, sir, for 5 minutes, sir.
Give me 10 minutes. Give me 10-15 minutes. Okay.
10 minutes. Okay, sir. But everything, which is on, please, I request all the participants not to leave.
Okay.
So we there. So, sir, you take a break for 10 minutes, sir. No problem, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. Just 10 minutes. All right.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
तो आप ही बढ़ा देंगे, मैं तो सट ही जाऊंगी, तो खाना जाएगी
या 5 दिन में उल्टी भाग जाओ, मैं तो तनखो।
हाँ 5-6 बेर फाटेगा।
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. You have to start.
Yeah. Actually ना मुझे थोड़ा सा फीवर शुरू हो गया है.
ओहो.
Already 5:30 बजे ही फीवर था.
जी 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 जी.
स्टाइल है जैसे चल रहा है. I'm feeling very exhausted.
ओहो.
So let me see how much I can continue. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
थोड़ा सा ऐसी तबीयत गड़बड़ हो रही है. All right. So we were talking about qualitative research and what are the aspects of qualitative research. Now, first thing, let us come back here. It is stop sharing. Fine. Now, just as we have positivism on one side, okay, the other side, we call it interpretivism. What is interpretivism? In interpretivism is that we try to see the, language, very interesting expression hai. We try to see the world of others through the subjective experience of the researcher in the world of others. Now please see, kya hai? We say that कहाँ आएगा इसका वो? Yeah. ये कैसे? How can I get the eraser etc. on place here? I'm using it the first time, in fact. Acha, haan, here. Right.
So there must be a toolbar.
Got it. Yeah, it is here. So we have eraser. Yes. Yes. See, it's a very interesting thing over here. That we will put it this way. That एक चीज मैंने आपको पिछली बार बताई. That is, we call it constructionism. Interpretivism ka one aspect is meaning is that meaning is constructed. Meaning of the phenomenon is not something which is objective. All right. Meaning is constructed. Okay, my dear friends. And the second important aspect is, for this, we will say that it is the understanding the world of others, particularly in the context of social science. Understanding the world of others, that is your subjects, through the now please notice, subjective experience of researcher. Subjective experience of researcher in the world of others. Now kindly mark this. Mark this few sentences here. Understanding the world of others. Say you want to study the functioning of managers. You want to study the working of business organizations. You want to study the working of a certain, say, society. So how do you do it? We do it through the subjective experience. My own, if I am the researcher, my own experience, how I look at that, my experience, researcher subject experience in the world of others. जैसे एक example देखिए. Say for example, you want to study that the managers use deception. Leaders use deception in different forms. You know, there is a, हम ये study कर रहे हैं आजकल. I'm doing this study. The subject of my study is servant leaders. Servant leaders use of deception. You know, servant leaders have a very special, they're a special type of leaders. These are the leaders whose focus is on the aspirations, ambitions, and concern of the subordinates. Like, you know, an idea had recently come that in one organization, one scholar, he had propagated the idea that of employee first in place of customer first. You see, in the world of business, they have always been talking about, and I'm sure whatever discipline you belong to, you must have heard this, that successful business requires that customer's requirement must come first. Customer first and everything else later. This fellow came up with the thesis, employee first. If you take care of the employee, if employee is all right and happy, all right, employee is fully taken care of, then customer will automatically be taken care of. Just please give me a minute.
पेट्रोल छे के नहीं पेट्रोल
Sir, Sharma sir.
Sir, he has taken a break.
Okay, okay.
हाँ, sorry, I'm back.
Oh, okay, sir, okay.
हाँ, मुझे जरा जाना पड़ा था थोड़ा सा 1 मिनट के लिए. Okay. हाँ, तो क्या कह रहे थे हम? Understanding the world of others through the subjective experience of the researcher in the world of others. Now, please notice. Say, for example, you want to study. We are studying, for example, servant leaders' use of deception. Servant leaders are the ones, who are considered to be truthful, who are considered to be emotional, very much concerned about the welfare of their subordinates. They are also considered to be spiritual people. So interesting thing was, we wanted to know, do they really indulge in deception of some kind? Because power dynamics are there. When you are working in an organization, there always be, however good you may be as a person, but there always be some people who will pull you down, who may do the backbiting, who may give false information about you, and you have to protect your power position. I'm just giving one example, managing the mistakes, for example. So do these people, how do they manage? And when we did some interviews here and there, we found in our preliminary studies that these people do make use of deception in different forms. How exactly do they make use of deception? How to do this? So what were the ways? So one way was that we interview them. And when we interview them, many times people do not give us the truth. People hide certain facts. They are not very expressive also, and they don't want to hide the truth just because they are untruthful, but they do not want that the reality of their organization comes outside. So this was a problem. So what we did, one of the researchers, our researchers, we took the permission from the administrators, and one of the persons got enrolled as an employee over there. We made arrangement, and that person started working over there. We took the permission from the vice chancellor of the university, and the salary that was to be received from there had to be deposited with the university. And the person worked over there, and he only wrote the memos. By memos means your reflective ideas. Whatever was happening, those things this person tried to write as a memo every day. And that information, what was that? When the person is writing those experiences, so what is that? That is actually his experience, the researcher's personal experience in the world of the servant leaders. दूसरों की दुनिया में हमारा experience. And through that we are trying to understand the world of others. It is very interesting. We call it ethnography. The tool is known as ethnography, but actually what is in qualitative research in interpretivism, the subjective experience is understandable. तीसरी बात जो यहाँ पर आती है, the cornerstone. जैसे आपसे कहा था, what are the contours, what are the cornerstones of the quantitative research? हमने कहा measurement, observation, testability, objectivity, falsification, and all those things. Similarly, here we will say that reality is not there. Reality is actually constructed. It is about the subjective experience of the researcher. And third very important thing is, we say, understanding the generative mechanism. Generative mechanism of behavior. And what is the generative mechanism of behavior? That is the behavior that takes place. In terms of what does the behavior take place? The behavior takes place in terms of what we will say values, beliefs. That takes place through values, through beliefs. Norms, practices, traditions. And of course, one more word, the thought. Methods. Now, this is how, these are the forms in which which have an impact on the behavior. Now, we can observe some of these, but behind each of these, the way the beliefs, what is the reason for the beliefs? There is a reason for it that we call the generative mechanism. So that generative mechanism is recognized by us, my dear friends. It is not always observable, but what is not observed, even that is realized, that is recognized, my dear friends. Okay, so this is what actually the qualitative research actually is about. Of the forms or the formats that it may assume, that it may take up. What are the ways that we can, what are the dimensions of the qualitative research, therefore. So I will come to a few specific methods over here. But before I come to that, let us let us just capture the focus of interpretivism. The focus of interpretivism here is what we will say, that we try to understand this thing, that the reality is not objective. It is created or constructed. Subjectivity is acceptable. Generative mechanisms are recognized, and those generative mechanisms are investigated. ऐसा क्यों? जैसे for example, say you are studying, very simple example, the behavior of prisoners in a prison. Say, very simple topic I'm taking. So the prisoners develop their own language, norms. They develop their own terms. कि जो लोग authority के चमचे हैं, for example, they call them chamchas. The people who are favorites of the authorities, उनके लिए एक नाम है. Okay, they call them rat. Sometimes they call them rat. And similarly, that kind of how these terms are developed and why. That is the generative mechanism. So that is what we try to see. Use of deception when we are studying. So we are not only studying the use of deception in the type of problems or type of issues, but why they are using deception and why that particular form of deception. So we try to understand the consciousness or essential characteristics of the consciousness of the subject also. But for that, there are different methods. If we adopt the method of phenomenology, then we try to, I'll just come to this very shortly. Then we use this particular method. So these are some of the basic aspects of the qualitative research. And in terms of, as far as carrying out the qualitative research is concerned, there are a number of tools available, number of methods available, and some of those I will like to discuss. But before I proceed, if there are any questions, you can please ask me on the discussion on Introduction to Qualitative Research. If there are any questions, you can please write them on the chat box. Otherwise, I'll proceed. My dear friends. Yes, please. Or you can switch on your camera and switch on your mic and come forward.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, my name is Dr. Kavita.
Yeah, please.
So, sir, I have done a lot of quantitative analysis. I do regression analysis and all of that. But now, I've done my PhD from abroad, and there was mostly, used to be quantitative. But when coming to India and, doing data collection, primary data collection and everything, then these tools of qualitative analysis become very important. And, so I wanted to ask, so a lot of my PhD students, they do stakeholder analysis. So, sir, is stakeholder analysis qualitative analysis, or is it quantitative analysis?
No, what exactly do you do in the quality in the?
So in the qualitative analysis, in the stakeholder analysis, what we do that we, for example, we have identified 2 stakeholders. And then we design a questionnaire where we ask certain questions from the stakeholders. What do you think about, the changes that have happened in this particular study site in the last, 2 years or 6 months? And what do you think are the reasons? What are the reasons, that have led to those changes? So we record that's also, we can say, some sort of their own perceptions, that what do they think, what have, like, for example, we're asking the villagers, what do you think have the changes that have taken place in the last 6 months? And what are the reasons? So would that be, would that be qualitative?
Actually, these questions, the open-ended questions actually. So this is a qualitative method of doing it.
This is qualitative.
Yeah.
So we can apply these tools of qualitative that you are going to be, talking about to these kind of stakeholder analysis.
Yes. If you have open-ended questions, so there has to be a framework. Only thing is that you should understand the basic philosophy that you are talking, that you are following. Maybe that you have been for doing this particular method without knowing the theoretical dimensions of this. Okay, without knowing this paradigm of interpretivism.
Okay, okay.
Maybe you are doing the same thing. Now here, you have to arrive at, there are diverse ways in which we do it. You have to arrive at, like you have seven subjects for that matter. And how those 7 subjects are presenting their ideas, you try to find out commonalities among them. And we club them together. So if you're following the grounded thought theory approach, then in that case, we do some coding. From coding, we create the categories. From categories, we develop themes. And from themes, we create the superordinate concepts or constructs.
Okay.
So there is a certain procedure which is followed for this.
Yeah, because some of the, when we send papers for publication, some of the, reviews that we get are what you're talking about, that, what you have talked about today, that, it is up to the interpretation of the researcher who has collected this data. So what kind of testification you have done to see that, it can be journalized like that?
So actually you are sending it to a positivist journal.
Yes.
Whereas your work is interpretivist.
Yes.
So they would reject it right away.
Yes.
For them, something which cannot be measured does not exist.
Yes.
So they would give you a very, very ruthless kind of interpretation, a ruthless kind of rejection. So you have to select the journals of the similar kind. Okay. And the journals that you select, there also the approach that you are following, that you have to specify. If you are sending it to the qualitative approach also, then whether you are doing the discourse analysis, narrative analysis, or you are following grounded theory, or you are following the phenomenology, which method are you following?
Okay.
So that investigation you will have to do.
Okay. So that really clarifies my doubt. Thank you so much.
Yes. So इसमें एक book है Corbin and Strauss, Introduction to Qualitative Research, that is on grounded theory. You can follow that.
So can you just say that one more time? What is the name?
Corbin and Strauss.
And Strauss.
Introduction to Qualitative Research. This is on grounded theory.
Okay.
And there is another book you might like to use this, and that book is this is Interpretative Phenomenological Analysis. I'm writing it in the chat box. Interpretative Phenomenological Analysis. Phenomenological Analysis. This is by Smith and others. There are 3 authors in this, but the very famous author is Smith. This is the only textbook available on this subject. It's a very powerful technique. There are 2 more authors along with Smith that you can do. And there is another author, Jerry Willis, Willis. This is a book, and this is the author, and the book is Foundations of Qualitative Research. This is the book. I'll show you. I have this book with me. Where is that? It was lying right here. Yeah. This is that book. It's a very good book.
Yes, sir.
You can see Foundations of Qualitative Research. Can you? Is it showing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can see it.
Author is Jerry Willis.
Yes, sir.
So this is one book which will give you the theoretical and theoretical understanding of the subject. And unless you are strong on the methodology, there are 2 things you understand it. One is method, and the other is methodology. Methodology is concerned with the philosophy of your approach to study. It is concerned with what we will call epistemology. Epistemology is science of knowing. Qualitative research is a science of knowing. I say creating or generating acceptable knowledge. How do you generate acceptable knowledge? One is quantitative method. You measure everything. That is what it is, a linear method. Whereas in this method, as I was saying, when we come to the methodology of this type, then the method is not linear. It is non-linear. And what do I mean by linear? Ab suniye zara. Let me explain to you the linear method. What is the approach you follow in the quantitative approach, Dr. Kavita? You have an introduction.
Yes,
After introducing the subject, you have importance. This discussion is relevant for everybody. That is why I'm talking. Importance. After importance, you have literature review. From literature, you find out what are the gaps. On the basis of the gaps, then you find, on the basis of gaps, you form your objectives, research questions. Then data collection. Data collection is quantitative. It has to be in terms of numbers and facts. And then you subject that data to statistical analysis. And then finally, you interpret the results statistically and then in terms of the theory. Now, this is a process which is given here. Now, suppose I say the literature of the subject does not exist. Like, for example, servant leadership and deception. There is no literature. Any literature. So there is no theory. Gap. Now, what do we do in such a case? No literature on the subject. So the conventional thing is somebody has the background.
Please kindly mute. We would really like to listen to this. Kindly mute.
Yes, please. So coming to this, Dr. Kavita and others, of course. अब कैसे करेंगे इसमें? Now, in the conventional approach, thing is that you only extend the knowledge. Whatever is existing before, you then extend it. Now, here it is a question where theory does not exist. So what do we do? Only option that we have is that we follow the grounded theory approach. There is no theory required. And in the grounded theory, everything is data. When you go to the field and you talk to the people, everything is data means what? Numbers are data. Behavioral data is also data. Now, what does behavior mean? Behavior means behavior will include even the way your subject is walking, talking, the paraverbal communication, his gestures, the kesh vinyas, how you are doing your hair. For example, even that is data because the entire context becomes very, very important. Please note this. And here, what you do, you go to the field, you collect the data, and you have some hypothesis in your mind. And what you observe is completely different from what you were expecting. So then what you can do in this approach is you come back and revise your hypothesis in the light of your new observations. You can revise your objectives also. You start with some objectives, and then you find that these objectives need to be modified in the light of the data. In the positivist research, this is not allowed. We say, no, this is wrong. If your data is not serving your hypothesis, that is what you should be reporting. एक मैं एग्जांपल देता हूं आपको. एक स्टडी की गई थी. It was in 90s. This was a PhD thesis that was done, and it was very well applauded PhD thesis that was being done. In that PhD thesis, what they observed, that they were trying to study the relationship between commitment and performance. And do you know what they found? They gave the questionnaires relating to commitment. Objective was to find out relationship between commitment and performance. The more committed a person is, the more better will be performance. That was the observation. That was the thinking. That was the objective. And for performance also, certain indicators were specified and quantitative data, that is in terms through questionnaires, was collected. And when they tabulated the data and calculated the chi-squares and other things, what they found, to their surprise, that the relationship between commitment and performance was negative. Can you imagine? The more committed a person is, the poorer that person is performing. Now, after 2 years of data collection, this was the result that was obtained, and the researcher was highly disturbed. Okay, what is this happening? It is absolutely contrary to the theory which is there and contrary to the common sense. Why it is happening? Only from this data, whatever data you have gathered, you find out why it is happening. Now, this is a thesis. This was the work somewhere around 1987-88. I was also doing my thesis, and there was somebody, my senior. That person was also doing this PhD. And this was the result, and the person was highly disturbed what to do. Now, when we were discussing at that time, so the supervisor said, I don't know why. You cannot change your things. You please create justification for why your findings are like this. Then we were sitting together. I came across some paper. I said that maybe that we have two types of commitments. One is that you are staying in the organization, commitment to stay, and the other is motivational commitment, commitment to work hard. आप इसको divide करिए इसमें, sample को इन दोनों aspects से. Is it possible? Some research was there done by somebody else. So we used that and we divided the data. Most of the subjects were from public sector, government organizations, universities. So I said there is a job scarcity in the country. Somebody who has got a job once, they would not like to leave the government job. So everybody has high commitment to stay. And those who have a permanent job without any chances of being thrown out, without punishment, so it is quite possible that these people will have low commitment, a low performance. And there may be some people who have high motivation in spite of all these things. So they will show higher result. So do this, let us segregate the data samples. And we started, in terms of age and so on, we started segregating. I'm talking of 1987-88. And we were able to justify we were able to see, yes, theory is correct. This kind of people have this kind of thing. And look, we are all quantitative things, and things were there. And so many papers were published out of this work, and it was a very well received research. Now, if this kind of a thing similarly is observed in qualitative research, so what we will do, we do not have the quantitative data. So what we would do, we have a limited number of subjects because intensive interviews take place. So what we would do, maybe that we would like to change our objective. Sometimes we would like to change our hypothesis, and we would report that. It is not that we will not report, otherwise it will become cheating. That we started with this hypothesis, and then the hypothesis were changed because of this reason. And we have to justify, and we have to investigate, think, rethink. So this is what we do. And what we do is, I do not have much time to teach you exactly that. But what we do in grounded theory is that we have the narrative in front of us. We take the interview, we take the transcript of the interview. And from the transcript, we create the codes. Ideas, small ideas, repeated ideas coming in different subjects. And from those codes, we create categories of the ideas. And those categories of ideas are then combined to create themes of the discussion. And from themes, we create the concepts or constructs or superordinate constructs. And then we make the generalization, not generalizations, we describe. So this is what the focus of qualitative research is. And one more thing here. In qualitative research, we do not look for the universals, that is generalizations. We do not make generalizations. because our subjects are fewer. And here the focus is more on description rather than on analysis. So we try to describe in detail and in depth, including the context and the generative mechanism of the occurrence of the phenomenon, of the behavior, whether it is of the individual or of the society as a whole, my dear friends. Mr. Naresh Kumar, you want to say something? Mr. Naresh Kumar. You raised hand, Mr. Naresh Kumar. Okay.
So, sir, at no point any data is generated, right? At no point, point there is no data is generated, right? Even when we're doing qualitative.
No. Generated means what?
I mean, like measurement, like what we're talking about in positivism, the measurement and objectivity, that is not created, right? That measurement is not done.
We don't try to measure, yes, we observe. The focus is on observe. And Dr. Shalini is asking a question here. Do we have hypothesis in qualitative research? Or as you just pointed out, we can change hypothesis. Yes, we can have hypothesis. We can have hypothesis. Okay, but best is not to give the specific hypothesis, because we instead say research questions. That is what it is. Because hypothesis is very specifically stated, and it is the answer to the hypothesis must come in the form of yes or no. That is what the technical description of, or technical meaning of, or technical description of hypothesis is. It is not, hypothesis actually is a mathematical term. Yes, I hope I have made this point clear. So you can have hypothesis, but hypotheses are very generally formed, general in nature. Okay, and Dr. V. Vanita is saying, sir, do we have minimum sample size for qualitative research? Yes, I think there should be some. जैसे example दे रहा हूँ मैं आपको, कोई rule नहीं है इसका. There is no rule how many subjects should be there, but we should have some, and we all know it cannot be very large. It has to be a small one. It cannot be large in the sense that more than 30. It is very difficult to reach that particular level because we are doing intensive interviews and the transcript analysis like that. Just for example, if we are using the interpretative phenomenological analysis, 6 is enough for a doctorate. And sometimes 2 are enough. So I don't really say. So it depends on the kind of study you are doing. For example, a study was conducted on the impact of pain on the identity. ऐसे पेन होता है हमको, तो नर्सिंग के अंदर ऐसी स्टडीज की जाती है. पेन हो रहा है हमें, तो पेन से जैसे बैक पेन हो गया, तो आदमी की the person's identity will get affected. How identity will get affected? The person who is in pain cannot walk freely the way he was walking or she was walking earlier. They cannot bend down and pick up. They cannot rise the staircase they were doing earlier. So it is not just like that. It is not easy and simple. So very identity in the sense the way you walk, the way you talk, and very often what would happen that the people who are chronic patients, somehow or the other, the discussion of the pain will come in, and everything will be seen from the prism of the pain. A healthy person doesn't do that. So in such a study, in that study, only 3 subjects were studied very, very deeply. And the paper, rich research papers, rich data were created and cultivated in that. And a good research paper came out of that. What is the difference between method and methodology? Yes, methodology is the approach. Like, for example, quantitative approach is the methodology. It is the perspective. It is the paradigm. On the other hand, qualitative research is the paradigm, because here we are following interpretivism and constructivism. In positivism, what is the method? Method is measurement. Okay, you gather, for example, even if you want to study a subject like, for example, you want to study leadership style. You want to study, for example, temperament. Or you want to study, say, these are all qualitative concepts, but we measure them. We create questionnaires, creativity, intelligence. Now, these are the things. These are actually they are vague subjects, vague topics. But when you are following the method is of measuring them, and for that a scale is developed called the questionnaire. A well-tested specific questionnaire is known as the test. We call it test, you call it a scale, and you measure it through that. That is a method. In qualitative approach, we follow methods like, as I described just now, grounded theory approach. So you can follow that particular approach. Somebody has unmuted. I think it is Shalu. Shaluji, please mute yourself. Okay. So these are the methods, my dear friends. One more method I would like to, maybe I can describe it to you, and that method can be called phenomenology. So in phenomenology, what do we do? In phenomenology, we try to capture the essential characteristics of consciousness. And here we try to capture the intentionality. Now, intentionality here is not just the intention or purpose. Here, intentionality means a few things. Intentionality here will mean, just a moment, let me just write down. Essential characteristics of consciousness. That is the focus, dear friends here. इसको एक साथ हटा सकते हैं ना हम लोग? Somebody was saying that it is possible to remove everything from the page with one stroke. What is that method?
Clear all.
Where is it written, sir?
At that toolbar only. At that toolbar only, sir.
Achha, clear.
Clear all.
Clear all, right. Fine. तो जैसे हम कह रहे थे इसमें, say another thing is phenomenology. So in phenomenology, what we try to do, we try to capture the essential characteristics of consciousness of the subject. And what do we try to capture here? The focus is on intentionality. Intention. Now, intention does not mean purpose. It is not purpose. Instead, the intention here is referentiality. Right? Directedness. In the mind, what is, when you're talking of the capturing the characteristics of consciousness of the subject, so you are actually referring to the referentiality, directedness, and the contextuality. So these are the things that we try to capture through the expressions of the person. So there are detailed ways and methods of arriving at those. So, there are some quantitative, for phenomenology tools are not available, but for grounded theory, narrative analysis and discourse, narrative analysis similarly is done. The analysis of the narrative, as Dr. Kavita was saying, I think I think she has been following narrative analysis without really knowing the, when you have the narratives, when you have the expressions of the subjects in front of you, then we try to find out the commonalities among the different subjects, and we try to categorize them. And we say, well, these are the aspects which the people are really suffering. And those narratives are then categorized Yes. So referentiality, context, and directedness towards what it is actually directed. Whatever you are saying, it is directed to some object, something that you are expressing. So those are the things that are captured in phenomenology. Actually, here in this particular method, what we try to do is that we try to find out how the subject is making sense of his world. Now, what do I mean by saying this, making sense of the world? Say, for example, you are studying anger. Take it like this. Say, emotion of anger you are studying. So how the person is making sense of the anger? What justification? So justification will be done with the help of directedness, contextuality, and the referentiality. What is the reference? What is the context? And towards what it is actually directed, my dear friends. So that is how we do this. And similarly, as I can list some topics, there is hermeneutics is also there. By hermeneutics, there is another approach to this, and we do it through what we will call hermeneutics. Here the language and the words, they become significant and important. Actually hermeneutics is developed as a method for the interpretation of religious texts. Now it is used for the purposes of interpreting the narratives also. Why a particular word has been used and why another word has not been used. So in details, we go there, we go into the details, and we try to follow this particular approach of hermeneutics. And we have, as I've stated to you, there are methods like, say, grounded theory. Okay, phenomenology, I've already told you. There is narrative analysis. Discourse analysis. Those are the methods which are employed. And those of you who are from the literature would be aware of at least hermeneutics as well as narrative analysis. So we employ this particular method. Now, qualitative research has not been used much in the area of business and management and commerce. So those of you who want to do something new, they would definitely like to do research in this area. Sir, Dr. Rajiv Nayan, are you here? Hello, Dr. Rajiv. Hello. Dr. Anjali.
Hello. Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Organizers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here.
Mr. Altaf Malik.
Hello. Yes, sir. Amir this side.
Amir. Yes.
Dr. Rajiv Nayan is here.
Yeah.
Can I take some questions now?
Yeah, sir. You can, sir.
Yeah. Can you please explain phenomenology with an example? Yes, I can explain this phenomenology, Dr. Pooja. It's like this. For example, say, आपका area क्या है, Dr. Pooja? What is your area?
Sir, social sciences, commerce से हूँ मैं.
Commerce में. And what is your area of research?
Sir, marketing.
Marketing. So, say for example, कोई topic बताइए अपने subject का, in which you work.
Customer satisfaction, to find out, like recently what I did, that I try to find out the customer satisfaction towards service providers in telecommunications.
जैसे आप कर सकते हैं green products.
हाँ जी.
Their acceptability, intention to buy, and actual buying. So one method is quantitative. You collect the method. You collect the data with the help of the questionnaire. Okay. Now suppose instead of that you start talking to the people generally, and you try to find out. Say एक छोटा सा देखिए, एक question पूछते हैं आप. I'm just saying, एक question पूछते हैं आप. Do you buy green products? Now the person expresses like this. Well, I want to. लिखिए, देखिए जरा, एक मिनट में मैं explain करता हूँ इसके लिए. Well, now here, when you are writing this, it will not come. But in your script, yes. Well, I think I want to. But yes, sometimes I do. Now this sentence is there. That's all. Now let us examine this particular sentence from phenomenology. Each sentence will be examined in this manner. That means the individual here, what is here? The consciousness. Well, I think I want to, but yes, sometimes I do. So then you ask a question, do you really do?
Yes, maybe the person is lying. What I personally feel.
We can't say that subject is lying. Okay. So we will say doubt.
Doubt. Yes, sorry. Doubt.
There is a doubt. Lack of clarity. Okay. I don't have information. So this is the referentiality. Intention. In terms of intention. Price is high, etc. So there is a very detailed way of examining each and every word and each and every sentence that the person speaks. And when we do the interview, after the interview, we come back and write our memos. Memos in the sense, our own understanding of how the person was answering. And those provide us rich data about the response of the individual. So here this subject is saying what? Well, I think I want to. Yes, sometimes I do. How is making sense of the word? This is one word that will always keep hovering. This question we will keep answering, keep referring to. How the person is making sense of the world. You are saying, do you buy green products? So how is that person making sense of it, sense of this thing? कि उसकी desire है. Sometimes I do. I want to. I think. So how the person is making sense of the world? How tell me, Dr. Gulati, how this subject is making sense of the world? Sense of green buying. That is what the response of that individual is towards the question of, do you buy green products?
Yes, sir.
So this is what we try to capture. Okay.
Now, sir, in this, now we have to ask some more questions.
Yes.
To clarify our doubt.
Absolutely. So sometimes your interviews can be very well structured, and sometimes there can be unstructured, or they can be semi-structured.
Okay.
So you have to be very clear conceptually what exactly do you want. And you have to give freedom to your subject to reply answers to the questions.
Yes.
I hope your question is answered, Dr. Pooja Gulati.
Yes, sir, very well answered. Thank you, sir.
In this limited time frame.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, please? All right. Any other questions, please? Dr. Rajiv?
Ji, sir.
Can we wind up?
Oh, thank you, sir. Amir, please propose a vote of thanks.
It is 15 minutes early.
No problem, sir. No
I'm really
problem.
not feeling well at all.
Amir.
But if there are any questions, I would like to very much answer.
Yeah. Maybe, sir, there is a no question is here. Amir, please propose a vote of thanks.
Yes, Mr. Amir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Thank you, Rajesh, sir, for giving me this opportunity to propose vote of thanks. Sir, the session was quite enlightening and interactive. Thank you, sir, for such a detailed explanation. I hope those relevant examples help the participant to understand the topics. On behalf of Teaching Learning Center, Ramajan College, and Indian Accounting Association NCR chapter, and on my own behalf, I would like to thank you, sir, for giving us your valuable time from your busy schedule for this session. I extend my special thanks to Principal Sir and Dr. J.L. Gupta, sir, for rendering this opportunity. In this, we exchange knowledgeable ideas about research methodology. Then I would also like to thank the organizers for devising such programs which help us to enhance our knowledge. Thank you, sir.
It is very interesting. I did not know Indian Accounting Association was doing it.
Yes, sir.
There are some studies in using qualitative research in accounting also nowadays. That work is being done. And accounting is a world of numbers, actually. It's a number crunching. But even in this world, there are some research studies which are being done employing the qualitative research, qualitative methods, I mean to say. Nice. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can I take leave, sir?
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the announcement for the participant. Someone is mentioned regarding the assignment. So you will get the assignment soon on RC MOOC. So our evaluation criteria, the MCQ and the assignments, you will get the assignment soon. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you, participant.